Right, and what you're doing is entertaining the student instead of getting them to really think and I think enjoy the process of thinking. And I'm wondering how much part of this is our dislike of actually thinking.
That is always a problem, yes. Thinking can be hard work.
You know, my oldest son, who's 22, the math thing in our house nearly destroyed our relationship. We spent all day fighting over 30 problems. So I had this motivation because there were long-term consequences to that way that I taught in our home. So so I had this motivation to come at it differently and to invest a tremendous amount of time in thinking. And the people that I think have been most successful about adopting what I do are people who are motivated to really think. And I know that there are parents who don't think because they have laundry and they have to clean and they have to do dishes and they've got 5 kids and we're teaching 6 or 7 subjects to all 5 kids, and I don't have time to stop and figure this out. So they want this open and go, read it, be done kind of thing. And I don't think it works well. If that's the mindset you're coming from, this isn't going to work well for you.
Yeah, and this is a problem not only with homeschoolers, but also with classroom teachers. They are under the same sort of pressure. You have so many things you have to cover, and you feel like if you just give them all these problems to practice, then they'll get it. But a lot of times, the repetitive problem, the 30 problems a day, it's sort of a waste of time in that a lot of students just kind of go into automatic, they turn their brain off, just following steps and not thinking, and nothing actually sinks in. You would be much better served to take 1 or 2 problems and see how many different ways you can figure them out. That was, for me, one of the most fun chapters that I wrote in Let's Play Math was when I did the mental math chapter where, okay, let's take this problem and let's think of how many different ways can we solve 8 times 6, or how many ways can we think about it. And you can take the hardest problem on your page if you want, or a problem that's in the harder set, and say, okay, this is a toughie, how can we think about it? Let's see if we can find 3 different ways to solve it. What if we first, let's find whatever seems to make sense first, and then, okay, if you're not allowed to do that, what else could you do? What might somebody else think of? And that can kind of brings the playful aspect of, I can be creative. I don't have to just follow the book steps. I can think of my own ways. It's more time efficient. It doesn't take as long to do talk about 1 or 2 problems as it takes to do 30, but the ideas sink in more deeply for the child too. But yeah, we're all under all of that pressure, and there's this holy grail of the book that I can just give the child that they go work it, and suddenly they are a grade A student or something. Everybody seems to want the magic program that will teach the child without me having to work. And it just doesn't work that way.
You mentioned your book, and Gaetano mentions this too, that math is a social experience, or math as a social experience. And I know what he says about it, and then I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on what you think about math being, because you just talked about the discussion and not just like how one does it, but why that's important.
Oh, well, that's a good question. Partly because the way that we are wired, the way that we're created, we're social beings. We're human beings, are social. The things that we value, we want to share. None of us, even people who are really introverts like me, we can't be our own little island. We need to share the things that we care about with our friends, with our family. And children learn that way. They learn by copying their parents. They learn by seeing what the parent does, or whatever role models that they're looking up to, the uncle or the grandfather or the Sunday school teacher. They learn by copying. It's sort of an apprenticeship of life. And so when we bring the math out into a conversation, they learn ways of thinking, and it's a deeper learning. They learn, see the cookies on the cookie sheet as rows. It's an array, and we can see 4 rows of 3 cookies or 3 rows of 4 cookies. We can actually see the multiplication right there. Just a lot of different situations in life. Let's see, are you familiar with Christopher Danielson's Talking Math with Your Kids?
I have the book and I haven't read it. It is on my list.
It's an excellent website, and I think most of the stuff in the book is condensed from the website with a little bit of extra elaboration. He talks about insights, from a teacher educator, and so how you can explain things, how you can draw out ideas. But the website is just excellent. Examples of how I take a situation and draw out my child's ideas of what's happening. And through the conversation, I learn what the child is thinking. And we can learn an amazing amount about understanding math from hearing how our children think. My kids never think about things the same way I do. But then also through the conversation, they learn the way that we think about it. And so they grow in the number of ideas available to them for understanding the next situation.